pornography is the most widespread addiction that the human race has ever seen since in our entire existence, right? It's very clear that the corporations, the government, the people in control, it almost seems like they're always trying to do things to weaken us. Internet porn tricks your brain into thinking that you're having sex with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women. Like, if you get on NoFap and you're still just playing video games and watching TV, smoking cigarettes and stuff, it's not going to do anything. It's going to say, oh, we're watching porn because we can't get laid. We still have that animal kingdom. We still have that primal DNA, right? The only monkeys that masturbated were the betas. No, nobody's perfect, but a life chasing perfection is a life well spent. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times.
He remembers being really defined as a person during high school when he would practice football for 4 hours a day. That's where and when his discipline developed drastically. Our guest today is the creator of the NoFap community movement, a community that aims to help people self-improve by abstaining from masturbation and watching porn. He's also got a YouTube channel called One Day Better, which is close to 20,000 subscribers by now. We talk about fake researches and studies and how the people in control are always trying to weaken us. The difference between sex and masturbation, why most mental health issues are created in our minds. We also touch upon the subconscious mind and how our actions influence our thoughts and not the other way around. We touch upon dopamine detox and dopamine fasts and the difference between the two and why one should invest their dopamine and much more. But without said and without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present you no one other than Tyler Johnston. You are listening to The Grateful Show with your hosts Pascu
and Bogdan. Join us on our mission to spread awareness around mental health and make people feel happier and overall more grateful.
Each week, we bring you an inspiring guest, stories, and a message that will help you become your best self and pursue your life mission.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of The Grateful Show. Hope you are doing great, and if you're not, you're about to be, because today we have no one other than Tyler. How is it going, my friend?
Good, man. I'm happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you on again.
Yeah, really, really happy, because last time it was just mind-blowing. The mindset that you have and the things that you have said, and like your mindset overall is just like, I feel like you should reach a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'm hoping to do. I'm finally getting back to the podcast and stuff. I got the studio built. I'm hoping to do a lot more of these types of things.
Yeah, slowly but surely we're gonna get there. Again, just to break the ice, what are you grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my health. Grateful to have food on the table and a roof over my head.
That's awesome. Just like the basic needs that we know that we have them, but like some people from Africa or I don't know, somewhere else don't have them and they just crave them so much. And yeah, we got to be grateful for them.
A lot of people have it worse, man.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. We take it for granted, especially us living in like big cities and having all the technology to our hand. We tend to take those things for granted. Like I always remind myself whenever I'm in a rut or like I just feel like I have a bad day, I'm like, dude, you can literally reach so many people through just opening Instagram, or you can literally order food through an app. You can order anything online. Like,
right,
the possibilities are like endless. But yeah, Tyler, for our audience, for the people that haven't listened to the first podcast with yourself, which was about 8-9 months ago, and for the people that are new here, give us a brief introduction into who you are and the movement that you've built, and yeah, what it represents.
Yeah, so my name's Tyler Johnston, but I mean, I run the NoFap community. It's not really about myself. I never really show my face a whole lot. But yeah, so it's called the NoFap community. And pretty much what NoFap is simply abstain from masturbation and porn, also known as PMO. And it's a whole community built around almost this new addiction, this new wave that's encapsulated so many men, and that's all the benefits that come along with it. That's a basic definition of what NoFap is.
That's great. And I just feel like now is the best time to actually just spread out your word, because so many people are facing this addiction. And the bad news are that a lot of people don't even know that this is an addiction. And like, you are right in the right place, right? I mean, perfect timing, because there are a lot of people who need help. And yeah, we just got to acknowledge for what you do.
No, it's interesting you bring that up, man, because I just made a YouTube video about that, about how pornography is the most widespread addiction that the human race has ever seen since in our entire existence, right? Like, there's over 42 billion visits to Pornhub, just Pornhub. That's just one site per year. Like, the human race, you take cigarettes, alcohol, any kind of addiction that's ever faced us, nothing's ever compared to our internet porn addiction. And on top of that, porn, the numbers double, like the statistics on how many people visit it and how many people use it double every 4 years.
That's crazy, right? Even us were kind of mind blown when we heard the facts from Tyler. But with that said, before jumping into the podcast, guys, I just wanted to let you know that we really appreciate your ongoing support, both on Instagram and here on all the podcast platforms. Therefore, I wanted to again give you a friendly reminder that whenever you share the podcast and whenever you put it on your Instagram stories and tag us at Grateful Show, that will get into a lot of more people's Instagrams. Therefore, we will be able to spread our message, and not only that, but we will hopefully be able to enlarge our audience, and that will give us the allowance and the capabilities to bring more and way better guests on our podcast. And with that said, back to the brilliant conversation with Tyler.
Yeah, that's insane. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like a while ago, I've seen this news, and there was something like 1 out of something like 10 searches on internet are like for porn.
It's actually 34% actually.
Holy shit.
That's the numbers that I got, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just mind-blowing.
I've seen a meme this morning that really resonated with me and my childhood and the unfortunate times when I came across porn. And there was this meme where a kid tries to search for naked women on Google, and then eventually a whole crisis comes upon himself, and he ruins his teenage years by basically getting addicted to porn. But yeah, you briefly explain what NoFap is about, but for people that came across the subject but didn't really want to tap into it, mostly because I've seen and I am aware of the fact that a lot of those big corporations are trying to push science in their favor, in a sense that there's a lot of articles out there. If you search, like people listening right now, if you go on Google and just type is masturbation healthy for you, you will see so many articles pointing out to different studies that basically prove that masturbation is healthy, and in fact men that are not masturbating are more intended to have prostate cancer and all of those stuff. So how would you address this, Tyler, and how would you basically, with an open mind, explain those people that are not yet prepared or aware enough of this aspect? How would you call them out, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I don't mean to go full conspiracy mode here, but
yeah,
it's very clear that the corporations, the government, the people in control, it almost seems like they're always trying to do things to weaken us. You know, take it for example, in the coronavirus lockdown, they shut down all the gyms.
Yeah.
Even though working out would boost your immune system, and they kept open all the liquor stores and all the weed dispensaries, right? And this is I could give a million examples of how these big entities, all the people in control, try and weaken us. And all those quote unquote studies that say masturbation's good and pornography is good, they're all funded by MindGeek. MindGeek is the company that owns Pornhub. So the companies that own all these porn sites fund that research, and they just magically say how porn is good and masturbation so good. So if you really look into those studies, it's very clear that it's false science and that they skew the results and they're just brainwashing you. Furthermore, I mean, even I think this is a good rule in looking at any study. You really just got to trust yourself, because even the real science goes back and forth all the time, right? It's been proven that science been proven wrong. Well, even I know you guys are into bodybuilding. 3-4 years ago, they said eggs are terrible. You should never eat eggs; they're terrible for you. And now they've switched back and forth like 6 times since then. You know what I'm saying? So even under their own logic, they're wrong. And if someone's just trying to figure it out for themselves, you know, I think porn's way worse than masturbation, just based off common sense. You take we're genetic adapting creatures, right? We've adapted over time. For the vast majority of humanity, males have only had 1 to 2 sexual partners in their life. That's the way that we've genetically adapted. That's the way we've changed. That's what we're used to. Only in the past like 20, 30 years, like one generation, internet porn tricks your brain into thinking that you're having sex with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women. Like,
Yeah.
and it fries your dopamine receptors. So I encourage people just to try NoFap out. Don't really trust science and just go off their own personal experience.
Yeah, wise words.
That's wise advice, yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about a scenario. Let's say that I'm a 17-year-old teenager, and I just come across, let's say, this podcast about NoFap and never heard about it before. And how would you address that guy that it's literally the first time who's being bombarded with the information that actually NoFap and all this porn movement, it's bad for you? How would you address him, or what would you tell him in order to not necessarily switch his mind, but let's say plant a seed in his head?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Well, the first thing I'll do is tell him to really look into the research of what porn does to your brain, you know, and just make his own informed decision. You know, at first I'd tell him how bad pornography is, and I would show him the NoFap community. But I think it's important for people to realize that the things that you're told, it's almost like unplugging for the Matrix, you know, like the red pill, you know, take the red pill in the Matrix. It's almost like tell him that maybe not everything that you see, not everything you hear, you should trust, and just really to try NoFap out for himself. And maybe it'll work for him and maybe it won't. You know, NoFap works for most people. Some people, they see no benefit. You know, it's important. I would just encourage him to make his own decisions and really just be open-minded and just try things out.
Yeah, really, really nice advice. I mean, to be honest, coming to what you have said earlier, I have a friend who said that he have tried this thing with NoFap for approximately 3 months, but there was no benefit for him. And I mean, I don't know what to think and what to say about it, because obviously for me, I mean, it's a game changer. But for him, I don't know if he's lying or he didn't do it like properly, but I feel like there's no way NoFap can't help you. I mean, it's all about the energy that you are just releasing when you are ejaculating, and it's very weird. Would you say that it should work with everybody?
Well, I would say 2 things. Number one, it's possible that he wasn't doing it correctly, that he was edging. Maybe he was having a lot of wet dreams. Maybe he was, because there's 2 ways that NoFap works, right? There's the dopamine rewiring, to where you have more available dopamine and your dopamine receptors are more activated when you're doing productive things. And then there's the buildup of semen, the buildup of sexual energy, right? So it's possible that he was maybe edging a lot, so he was still screwing up his dopamine receptors just as bad, maybe worse. Number 2, it's possible that he was just lying and he didn't do it. I mean, I don't know the guy, but... And number 3, it's possible that he was maybe still just having a lot of sex and maybe having just a lot of wet dreams, constantly emptying out his sexual energy. And furthermore, I mean, NoFap only works when you have channels to use it on, right? Like if you get on NoFap and you're still just playing video games and watching TV, smoking cigarettes and stuff, you know, it's not going to do anything.
Definitely.
NoFap NoFap just gives you the tools to succeed, and if you don't have anything to use those tools on, then it's literally not going to do anything.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Would you say that, is it any difference? Like, let's say that I'm in a relationship and obviously, let's say that I'm having sex, normal, regular sex. And then in the same time, obviously I'm ejaculating, but I'm watching porn as well. Is it still destructive?
I don't know. I don't think the sex is destructive at all. I think that the porn is definitely, because porn, if you had to choose between quitting masturbation or quitting porn's definitely worse. But the reason why sex is different than masturbation is because sex forces you to improve yourself, right? Sex is essential. Sex gives you that feedback loop of improving yourself, getting the reward of sex, and it just keeps going. Masturbation, you don't need anything. You could be sitting around, never work out, never work on anything, and just masturbate and still get that. Sex is actually good because it reinforces those positive habits and reinforces you to get better as a person, and then you achieve the sex. So I'm some guys say you should just be full semen retention all the time. I'm actually pro sex. I think sex is a good healthy thing for anyone.
Very interesting point. It's like, obviously, as Bogdan pointed out, it's one thing to do NoFap. Like, I personally done NoFap for like over 100 days, but like semen retention, however, it's much more difficult. Like, it's the monk mode, the heart mode. And I think even in Think and Go Rich by Napoleon Hill, he was not necessarily directly pointing out to the fact that you should have sex and ejaculate, but basically how the author was putting it was, when there is a connection through love and there is a energy connection between two people, of course, if you have sex, you basically exchange energy with your partner. So you, by having sex, it's way different from you watching porn, because you're basically exchanging energy with that partner. You're reinforcing her energy, she's reinforcing your energy, and together basically you can better yourselves, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree. I mean, we don't understand shit. All that Eastern medicine stuff. I mean, it's been proven that it's so true over and over. There's things that have been written 2,000, 3,000 years ago in old Indian books that just now are being scientifically proven today. We don't understand the human body. Like, it's like doing yoga. We don't understand why yoga has so many good effects on the body. I mean, it's just stretching, essentially. It's that energy movement, right? And I think, just to add on to that point from earlier about semen retention, I don't think it's good to be on semen retention all the time. I think semen retention, it's almost like sprinting or like maxing out in the gym. It's good in certain parts and it's essential in certain parts, but you shouldn't be doing it all the time every day. You know what I'm saying? I think it's good to just let it cycle naturally.
So would you say that, let's say that you're in a relationship and you still want, obviously, to have that energy from not ejaculating, would you say that edging while doing sex, I mean, not masturbating, I mean, not ejaculating, sorry, is still going to help you, or is it going to help you but not that much, or is it not helping you at all?
That's a great question. I actually have a podcast tomorrow with Jonathan White, who's a sexual energy master. He teaches dudes, like, he has a whole, that's his whole life, is studying sexual energy. Pretty much, I was listening to one of his YouTube videos the other day. He says that, going back to that energy during sex, if you get the right energy during sex and you edge, he was talking about this technique of basically injaculating, which basically means if you don't ejaculate during the sex, but you receive the right energies, that semen will be absorbed into your bloodstream, and it gives you like this massive creative energetical rush. You know, so I'm not sure. I don't know how well that works. If you guys interviewed me the day after tomorrow, I guess I could tell you, but I know that energetically they definitely have way different effects on the body. And I definitely know that having sex versus masturbating having sex increases your testosterone a lot more, and masturbating actually decreases your testosterone.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Fair enough. But I was wondering if, let's say that you are retaining your semen during sex, isn't it the same thing while, let's say, you are masturbating, but you are retaining your semen? Why is it different?
That's a great question, because I've actually studied this a lot. What happens when you masturbate and you edge, and I'm not sure how this would be different from sex, but I know most of the time when you masturbate and you edge, that semen gets pulled up from your scrotum and it gets ready to go, right? And then when you don't release it, it goes right into it can't go back down where it came from, because it's already gotten compromised. It's already came out, it's already dirty. It can't go back into there. So it goes into your bladder and you urinate it out later. And I know that's kind of I don't really understand how that works, but I know that most of the time when you edge and when you're masturbating, you lose it anyway. So you might as well, if you're edging, you might as well just release it at that point, because it's going to get released anyway.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are still things that we need to discover, and we need to do a lot more studies and just practice in order to see how it works and why it works this way and it doesn't work the other way. But I was wondering, what's your take on women masturbating or watching porn?
Well, I know definitely women don't lose anything when they masturbate. I'm not sure how it affects their energy or their chi. I know nothing about that, but in any case, pornography is terrible. I mean, pornography has the same effect on women's brain as it does on men's brain. So if I was a woman, the only advice I can really give them is I highly advise them not to watch porn.
Yeah, because basically it's the same dopamine desensitization, I guess is spelled. So basically, I think it has a lot of connection to their self-esteem and to their self-worth as well. We were speaking to Omkar on another podcast a few weeks ago about the fact that whenever a woman chooses porn, she basically reinforces the fact that she's not worthy of having a man, of having an actual orgasm through actual sex. So that's definitely not healthy for no woman, especially in the long run.
Yeah, I actually wanted to get into the subconscious mind. So pretty much why that happens, why you get a lower self-esteem and lowered self-confidence when you watch porn, is because we have something called the hindbrain. We have the subconscious, unconscious mind. So we have our conscious mind where we're aware of things, we can think our thoughts. And then we have the other 90% of our brain is subconscious. So like that's what's controlling our heart rate, what's controlling our breathing when we walk. You're not thinking about those steps, right? Your subconscious brain is constantly observing your environment, and it's constantly observing your conscious brain. So if I asked you what's your name, you'd be like Bogdan, right? You wouldn't even have to think about it. You wouldn't have to consciously think about it because it's stored in your subconscious brain. It's constantly storing that data. Your subconscious mind stores data based off your actions. So let's say you go and you watch porn. Your subconscious brain is going to justify that, and it's going to judge you. It's going to say, oh, we're watching porn because we can't get laid. That's why. And then it's going to apply that same concept of be like, oh, we can't get laid, so our testosterone must go down. Or it's going to apply that information to everything in your life. It's going to change your deep, dark beliefs about yourself at a core level, and it's going to weaken you across all areas.
Yeah, I believe that's happening just because, like, obviously, subconsciously, like you have said, your body, because you are genetically made that way, we used to have sex a lot before, and we were mating like a lot. But right now, when things have changed, obviously, you still need to have sex or to ejaculate. And because you can't, or because you don't have the confidence or whatever, you just go and masturbate, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And I was actually reading Becoming a Barbarian. I was reading this book earlier today, and he's talking about chimps. He's talking about monkeys. And the monkeys we still have that animal kingdom. We still have that primal DNA, right? The only monkeys that masturbated were the betas. The alphas always had, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
when we start masturbating, our brain's like, oh shit, we're a beta based on that deep, dark primal programming.
Yeah. And like, let's be honest now, because I really want to touch again on this point about your friend Bogdan. Like, let's be honest, like, even if that guy was lying to you in regards to the fact that, yes, he was on semen retention, but deep down he knew that he wasn't, he basically carries that shame everywhere. Like whenever he relapses, whenever he watches porn, yeah, he might get away with it because he's just himself alone in his room. But deep down, as Tyler mentioned, in your subconscious mind, you know you're not doing the right things. You know you should be basically improving your social skills, or perhaps reaching out to someone, or perhaps meeting people. But instead, you do that. So even though you just justify that, like it's lockdown or whatever, or I'll do it next week, I'm gonna meet that girl, I'm gonna text whoever, still that subconscious mind, that program gets rewritten with each time you relapse, making it harder and harder for you to actually quit.
Right. And there's actually something that I read about called the thought action loop. And so it has, on one side it has thoughts, and the other side it has actions. And we think that all of our actions are based off our thoughts, but our actions influence our thoughts just as much, right? So if you do something, your mind's going to justify it, right? So like if you did something nice for a friend, you're gonna like that friend more after you did that nice thing for them than before. Why? Because your brain's gonna justify doing that nice thing. You're just like, oh, I did that nice thing for them, for that friend, because I must really like them. That's why if you give your friend a pencil or something, you're gonna like them weirdly more after than before, because your mind's constantly justifying why you did that action, and it changes your beliefs based off that previous action.
Definitely. It's the same when doing hard things. Like let's just assume that no fab has no benefits whatsoever, but it's still difficult. It's very, very difficult to keep at it. Cold showers as well, training, whatever is difficult, when you actually do it for a long period of time, you basically, as you said, justify to yourself that you went out of your comfort zone so many times. You must be this alpha male that basically goes against all odds and takes cold showers, works as much as is needed and all that. And basically your confidence is going to raise. Even if there's no benefits of those things, let's just assume your confidence is still going to increase, because subconsciously you know that you are doing difficult things instead of actually taking the easier route, instead of having a pizza or watching a Netflix series.
Absolutely, man. This discipline's a muscle. Just like this, you got to work it out every day.
100%.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I was just wondering, let's say that I'm a guy who has been doing this semen retention movement, and I'm like on 100 days streak. And I'm really curious, is there like a line where it's not healthy anymore? Like after a certain amount of days, it's not healthy for you?
Yes, I actually do think that being on semen retention for, I would say, about 90 days, I think all that stuff they say, oh, it gives you prostate cancer, I don't think that's true. But I think mentally it starts becoming unhealthy, because, I mean, semen retention, if you go on it for too long, like just like we're talking about, that subconscious justification, it'll drive you crazy if you stay on it for too long, because your brain's going to go, why aren't we having sex? Why aren't we having sex? Why aren't we having sex? And eventually that feeling of unworthiness, at first it's a positive thing, because when you first go on semen retention, your body's like, okay, well, we just need to get better. But when you've been on semen retention for a long time and you keep getting better, but you're still not nutting, eventually that starts to drive you nuts, and you start to kind of go crazy a little bit, and you start to get angry, and you know what I'm saying? So I think it's not physically unhealthy to be on semen retention that long, but I think mentally it's a little bit unhealthy to be on semen retention that long.
Mm-hmm. And is there like a sweet spot, let's say, I don't know, 50, 60, 40, 30 days that you should just then ejaculate?
I think people, I hate saying this because people might use it as a reason to relapse, but I think you kind of got to play it by ear, man, because everyone's different. People of different ages, people of different testosterones produce different levels of semen and sexual energy, and people of different levels of how much they spend their sexual energy. So it's really up to you to be able to determine when you've had too much, where's the sweet spot. You really just kind of experiment with yourself because everyone's so different, you know.
Yeah, and I understand why you're saying that, because let's say that you're just starting out this whole movement, and then after 7 days you feel like, holy shit, it's not working for me. I mean, I've been on this for too long. Let's just relapse.
Yeah. You definitely got to try it out first, and then you can decide, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Tyler, we just wanted to dive a bit into dopamine, like in general, and I mean, a lot of people already know about the dopamine detox. What's your take on that? If you want to balance your dopamine levels.
Yeah, that's a great question. So dopamine, I mean, just if anyone doesn't know, it's your reward chemical, right? It's what you get when you do something either productive or you do something bad. You get a hit of dopamine. And dopamine's important because it reinforces all of our actions. You know, dopamine's the miracle chemical. It's what determines all of our habits and determines our life. So my perspective on dopamine and just pleasure in general is I think you should invest it. Now, what I mean for that is I think you should invest dopamine like you invest money. So if you invest money, let's say you have $1, right? You put it into real estate or you put it in the stock market. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you get $3. So you can have $1 now or you can have $3 in the future. I think the same is with dopamine. You can have a little bit of dopamine now with things like PMO, cigarettes, etc. You can have a little bit of dopamine now, or you can give that up. You can go on NoFap. You can self-improve. You can take the hits. You can live the hard life. Give that cheap pleasure up now. Invest it like you invest money. And, 10, 20 years from now, you're going to reap rewards 5, 10-fold. You're going to get so much more out of it than what you put in. So I think people should really play the long game with their dopamine, play long term, and just play it that way. And I think dopamine detoxes, I do think that they are effective in the short term. I did 6 in 2020. I think 6 was too much for me. I think the sweet spot for dopamine detoxes is about 2 or 3 a year. I think that's about the same. But yeah, that's my perspective on how to manage your dopamine and how I think the right way to manage dopamine is.
Yeah,
I love how you mentioned that you gotta invest it.
Yeah, but I was just about to say, it's one of the best explanations for how dopamine works.
Yeah.
How long were your dopamine fasts, if you don't mind sharing?
Just one. So there's. In a post that I wrote, so there's dopamine detoxes and then there's dopamine fasts.
Oh, okay.
Dopamine fast is long term. Like, I'm quitting cigarettes for 30 days or I'm quitting video games 30 days. A dopamine detox is just a 24-hour, just pretty much monk mode, nothing. Just kind of just sitting there, just reading books all day and no food or anything. So about 24 hours is about what I'd go for.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Really nice. And it's really nice how you pointed out that you gotta just invest your dopamine into your future self. And I was just wanted to ask you to change a little bit the subject, where you are heading with all this movement. What's your plan for the future?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna try to build up my audience. I think I'm gonna try to start doing like face-to-face videos on YouTube like that. Maybe start like a NoFap podcast almost. But what I really want to do is I want to do NoFap coaching, like one-on-one coaching, just help people one-on-one. I think that would be really fun. And also think I could make a living at that too. I think I could quit my job and do that full time.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that you're not gonna succeed with that.
Yeah.
And there's a huge demand for that. Even if most people wouldn't recognize it, there's so many people that need help with it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, because I think it would give some insights to our audience and also some value. What's one challenge that you had to overcome that you basically learned a big lesson from? It could have been from last year, or it could have been like a long time ago.
One challenge. I would say I wouldn't necessarily call this a challenge, but this was a really defining moment in my life. My junior year of high school football, we got this new head coach, right? and he was like this Air Force general and stuff. And pretty much what happened was it was just we were practicing like 4 hours hard every single day after school, you know, and it was definitely the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And that really built so much discipline because we'd go like 6 hours a day or like, yeah, total. Cause we'd have to get to school early, watch film, have meetings, go have meetings after school, practice, break down the film. And it was just, I would say that period in my life of playing high school football is what really, really defined me as a person and what really built my discipline and my mindset on life. I would say that right there was probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there is just like a pattern if you really look closely, and it's just like it goes like this. The harder are the times that you are getting through, the better you're gonna just become into the future, and the more you're just gonna transform.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we had a lot of guests before that. We basically asked them a different kind of question. I think we asked you the same question last time, and that was what's one event or thing that you are the most grateful for? And a lot of people actually, to our surprise, said that they are grateful for something bad that happened to them at the time. At the time, it was like the worst thing. It was like a nightmare, but further down the line, it ended up being like a change of career paths or just skyrocketed their mindset or help them spiritually awaken or whatever it was. But yeah, it's a pattern that with all the bad things, usually we get most of our lessons from.
Pain is growth in disguise, man.
Yeah.
Well definitely. Said. Very well said.
Yeah. Tyler, what's one thing that you currently would change about yourself that you know that you are doing or not doing, and you know that if you would do it or not do it would just help you step up the game?
I would say if I could change anything about myself, I would say nothing at all, man. Because, you know, you said if you could change one habit or anything like that, if I could magically make myself do a habit, I still wouldn't do it then, because the point of developing things about yourself and developing new habits and whatnot is you're developing as a person. You're developing your discipline, your mental strength to go along with it. I wouldn't change anything about my life or the way things have been or, you know, anything about myself, because those things have forced me to grow, to overcome them, and forced me to get better to overcome them. And like you said, those are the things that I'm most grateful for, you know, is my weaknesses. So I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, I really love the confidence and the honesty that you have just put into your answer.
Yeah, man.
Because, I mean, if you'd ask me the same question, I would say the same, but I would just feel like there should be something. But now that I'm hearing you saying the same thing, it's like, yeah, I mean, no regrets in a nutshell.
Yeah,
you are
yeah,
who
man.
You are, and you could be better, obviously.
Yeah.
But the things that you are doing maybe will, like the success will just appear in the future, not right now, even though you feel like you are doing some things which are wrong or there's something wrong with you even.
No, nobody's perfect, but a life chasing perfection is a life well spent.
Another well said quote.
these are my quotes, by the way. I just remember them. So
I was just wondering, because everybody is just now talking about mental health, and you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you shouldn't be doing this. And I just wanted to find out your point. What's 3 things that people should do in order to just help them out with their mental health?
That's kind of ironic, because I actually just wrote a little piece about that this morning. Basically, it went like, you only have depression and anxiety if you give it room. Right? Because let's think about our ancestors, or let's think about the people 1 or 2 generations before us. They never had depression or anxiety, or they had very, very, very lowered rates of it because their lives were hard. Our brains are designed to have hard. Our brains are designed to have pain. Now you can either have that pain by living a super disciplined life and doing the right things and doing the right things willingly and doing things that are going to move you forward, or your brain is going to adjust, it's going to autocorrect, and it's going to give you that pain. If you don't have a battle to fight outside, your brain's going to give you a battle to fight on the inside. So I was writing this morning, like Fago, or the Six Dogs, the musical artist, he just committed suicide last night. The guy who made Fago Dreams, the song.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, do you guys know that kind of like rap music, like American rap music?
I used to listen to it.
Yeah. Well, he committed suicide last night, and I was thinking, like, he got successful at a very, very young age. And I'm not saying he didn't work hard for it or anything, but he just hit that lucky chord, and he got all the riches, all the girls, everything he could ever ask for, maybe without all the work that it really took to get there. And that's why you see all these rich kids and all these people who have everything they ever want in life. They're always depressed, and they always have anxiety because their life is just too easy, So I think if you have depression or anxiety, I think the best thing you can do is just get up at 4 a.m. and go for a run. Go sit in the sauna for 3 hours. Go on a super hard fast. Just give your brain some kind of hard, and your brain will stop giving itself that hard. You know what I'm saying? That hard life.
I'm listening. I'm just finishing now Psycho-Cybernetics, which, by the way, to our people listening, if you haven't read it or listened to it, I highly encourage you to do so. And basically, the author, I was like 80% of the book, and I just realized that he's repeating one thing. And you know that with most books that are like bestsellers or that have a great impact, like Look at Think and Grow Rich, there's 1, 2, or 3 ideas that the author keeps repeating in different manners, so it gets to you eventually. And what myself, in my opinion, think that is the plot of the whole book in a nutshell is the fact that we are goal-striving beings, and we have to reinforce a positive attitude towards striving towards our own goals. Otherwise, as you mentioned, we either find things to be depressed about, we either find things to be anxious about. And there was another good point in the book about how to get creative in times of crisis, how to creatively solve problems in times of crisis. And kind of obvious concept, but it just made me think. The author explains basically the fact that you can either be aggressive and see it as an opportunity, because it's going to be way harder for you to reach your goals right now, and just see it as an opportunity to put even more work in to get even better than you were supposed to in the first place. Or else you can just complain and find excuses and basically fall into the other track, as you were mentioning, with like when you don't have hard battles to fight, you just create battles for yourself in your own mind.
Right. No, yeah, like you said, we're adaptive creatures, like our ancestors weren't depressed when they were hunter-gatherers just trying to survive because they couldn't afford to be. They didn't have room to be depressed, and I think you're right. You do need that mission to pull you up and force you to be better, to put you in a situation where you can't be depressed. Your mind won't let itself be,
100%. 100%. And like, I don't want to trigger anyone in the audience, but this is just my honest opinion. I think that is the case with mental health as well. I'm not saying that the whole thing applies, and I don't want to generalize, but as soon as we as people start to talk about certain things, it seems like we create those things, or we create more of those problems. I think there was even a theory about the fact that when there's a plane crash somewhere in the world, it could be in America, in the Pacific Ocean, when there's a plane crash and it gets mediatized, it gets in the news basically, there is a chance of like 30 or 35% increase of a chance for another plane crash to just happen in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that, just because of that news, just because of the fact that people started talking about that, it got to their subconscious mind. And I think it's the case with mental health and anxiety and depression as well. I'm not saying, I don't want to generalize it, because I know there's a lot of sensitive cases out there, but also on the other side, there's a lot of people that just need to wake up at 5 a.m., have a cold shower and go for a run, as you mentioned, and they're going to have no problems after that.
Yeah. And I think, I think people say all these mental health problems are genetic. They're like, oh, well, I was just born with depression. I was born with anxiety.
Right.
But that's clearly wrong because we've had the same genetics pretty much for thousands of years, and depression and anxiety has just gone crazy through the roof. So it's clearly something in our environment, and I do think it is that environment that kind of encourages it and makes it normal that drives the rates up. But I also think it's just the life we live, having the internet, having easy access to food, having just kind of being a little bit spoiled almost. I also think that that's a part of the environment.
Definitely.
Yeah, I totally agree. We were just talking about how someone should just find their challenges, because otherwise life is pointless. And I know that this is very subjective, but I'm just wondering, what would you say that is the meaning of life?
I think that the meaning of life, number one, is different for everyone. I mean, everyone has their purpose. I think the meaning of life is to find your purpose, try and make your mark on the world, and just try and get as good as you can and self-develop and maximize your potential the best that you can. And just do what you can with the genetics that you've been given and the environment that you're in. And just, whether you're religious or whether you're not religious and you think your purpose is anything else, everyone has a different purpose in life, and everyone has other things that fulfill them. And I think everyone just needs to figure out what they love to do and what they want to do with their life, and go all in on it. Do everything they can to be as good as they can at that one thing.
Yeah, really nice said. So then, would you say that there is no meaning that we should all be following? We should all just do that. I mean, everybody's just different, and everybody should just take their own path and work with what they have.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, this could be a simulation.
Yeah.
I mean, the rules of the game.
Yeah.
You don't know who's making the game, but you know the rules, so you got to play, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was telling Bogdan, I think it was last year, after some sort of awakening of mine, I was like, bro, there's no way we can exit this game, escape the game. We just got to create another mini game inside their game so we can play our game by our rules, but also whilst respecting most of their rules, because we have to be here.
Right, yeah.
You just change levels, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Talking about the game and the society and how we basically are wired to evolve, would you consider, let's say that, how should I put it? Would you like to live forever, be immortal, or not, and why?
No, I don't think I'd want to be mortal or immortal, if that's what you're at. I think that nature has rules, and I think that there's rules of nature. Everything's in a cycle. Everything in our life, everything is just a big cycle. Everything has a beginning and an end. The seasons, the weather, just our lives, and the sleeping waking cycle. And I think that the more you can live in line with just nature and just the way things are meant to be, and the more you can restore yourself to just your natural state and stay in that, I think you're going to be better off. And immortality breaks every rule of nature, so I don't know what could mess you up. I think you would get super depressed and it'd be torture, and there would be no way out of it, is what I think would happen if you were immortal.
Yeah. And if you really think about it, you can't even remember what happened last month. I mean, the details. What about last 100 years or 1,000 years?
Yeah,
and you'd have to see all your kids and everyone that you ever loved would die in front of your face, and that would just keep happening forever and ever. So you'd be lonely,
and you also wouldn't have any deadline, and so there will be no rush. You don't have to be that disciplined, because after all, you've got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
You're gonna be okay, so this doesn't really matter if I'm doing it now or later, because I'm not gonna die anyway. So what's the point?
Might as well just wait another couple of hundreds of years till we colonize Mars, because I don't like Earth that much. So I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler, we spoke a little bit earlier about mental health, and I'm really curious about your opinion. Would you say that we are living in a snowflake generation, or would you say that our times are just getting tougher and tougher, or both, or what's your take?
I think 100% we're living in a snowflake generation, at least in America. I've never been to another country, so I don't know. But I think most first world countries, Canada, the UK, America, we're all getting very, very soft. You know, like I've said before, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. You know, and then we're at the bottom end of the cycle right now. America had its Pax Romana, we had our rise, we had our success, and now everyone's just gotten comfortable and gotten soft in it. If the coronavirus hit 20 years ago, we would have a completely different reaction to it.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, people really just need to toughen up, because if we don't, I think America's going to get conquered here in 40, 50 years, because everyone in America doesn't realize, like, we're still animals. We're still primates. Almost every other country in the world wants our ass. They want our territory. And if we keep screwing off and we keep just getting worse and weaker, I mean, we're going to get raped and pillaged as a society, you know? So I don't know. It's definitely scary to be on the downturn of a civilization like this. But I just try to do what I can to change the culture and just stay hard myself and not be a snowflake.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, maybe it's not, it doesn't make any sense with the subject that we are talking, but it just came to my mind, that movie, if you know it, Wall-E, with that robot, where everybody just left the planet and they're just living in this spaceship, and they're just basically living in a chair. They're just watching videos and eating, and hopefully we're not gonna reach that point, and people like you and many other like influencers, good influencers, are gonna change that.
Hopefully, yeah, that's the plan, man. But we'll see. You know, we got to fulfill our purpose, do what we can, and the end result is going to be what the end result is. You know,
we just gotta let the butterfly effect to do its job, and hopefully it will be in our favors. But with that said, Tyler, I want to be mindful of our audience time, of your time, and I just want to address you the last question again. We asked you the same question about 8 months ago, but I really want to see what has changed and if things have changed in regards to your take on the questions. So this is how it goes. You are on your deathbed, so you're just minutes before your death. There's no pain. You just know that you have to say goodbye. But before you do that, you have to face the best version of yourself, the version that you could have become. You look that person in the eye, see and comprehend what you could have become. How would you feel about yourself, about your life, and about the things you've gone through in that particular moment?
I hope that I'd be proud. More than anything, I would hope that I can look back and say, I might have not been perfect, but I did everything that I could do in my power to be the best me that I could be and do what I need to do. That's really what anyone can hope for, you know, is just be proud of what they did and who they were and what they stood for, and be proud of the type of person that I was, you know? So that would be, as if I was cool with that. And let's say the best version of me made, you know, billions of dollars, and maybe I didn't make that much money. As long as I have that, and as long as I'm proud, and I thought I did just a good what I could do at life, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, all the answers to this question are just going in one direction, which is live a life without any regrets, because no matter what, you could have always along the way just took another decision which will just take you another path, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in another reality, we wouldn't have done those 2 podcasts, so you never know.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Tyler, thank you so much for what you do, for who you are, for your mindset, and for everything you're trying to achieve. And just to roll out the red carpet, can you please let our audience again know what you do and where can they find you?
Yeah, so my name's Tyler Johnston. I run the NoFap community on Instagram. I also have a YouTube. Yeah, you can just follow me at NoFap community. My YouTube is One Day Better. I'm gonna be posting a lot of stuff there, a lot of kind of philosophy stuff. So, yeah, so just NoFap community on Instagram, One Day Better on YouTube.
Awesome. You heard him, guys. All the links are going to be down in the description box, whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or watching us on YouTube. And with that said, Tyler, it's been an absolute pleasure to spend the last hour with yourself, getting to know you at a deeper level. For our audience, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to check Tyler's things out. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. And yeah, with that said, thank you so much. I'm Pascu.
This is Bogdan, and you guys stay grateful.
Thank you so much for sticking all the way till the end. This shows that you are serious about taking your life to the next level and doing that through a perspective of gratitude. If you enjoyed this interview, it would help us massively if you could give us a 5-star rating review on iTunes, or else share this on your stories and tag us. This way, with your help, our message will be seen by more people, and together we will make this world a better place.